It's nice to be back here. I think it's important to come back, not just to give you an update, but also to remind you, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. It'll change the way I do it. I'll take a break for a while, but for now, I gotta wonder about things. I think everyone, we all made mistakes. I think the trans protesters who came here, thanks to the news. I think the trans protesters who came here underestimated the outrage, and so did the police, and so did I. And we're going to reflect on that. I got to reflect on what I'm doing. The trans protesters need to reflect on what they're doing, and this community needs to reflect on how it looks. Did you want to look that way? I don't think you did. I really don't think you did. Or maybe you did. Maybe that was just what you wanted, to take all of that anger and throw it at Eastern Sydney, and throw it at a set of values that you feel didn't match yours. Because that's exactly what Christian Lives Matter did just 2 weeks ago, when they went to Newtown and they marched down that street singing rosaries. There is not a big Christian contingent there in Newtown. They chose that. Protesters came here last night because they knew that Mark Latham did not reflect their values, to show that they were against it. And what happened? I think we've all got to try and take stock of that. I think we've all got to try and reflect that for what I like, which is dialogue, there was none of it as well. My job's to chase the story. My job's not to become the story. I don't mind being a little bit of the story, guys. I don't mind being a little bit of the story. Not that much. And I don't mean the violence. I mean it became the center of it. And that wasn't the goal. It was the news. It was real. Sure. Can't forget the important part. Very important part. This wasn't just Christian Lives Matter out to get me. This was a group within that group who came out to defend me. And I'm going to keep repeating this because it is going to be easily overlooked. We're all going to see the guys that were over me trying to bash me, but we're not going to see the guys that were over me trying to make sure that I didn't get hurt. We're not going to see that there were 3, 5, 7, there were a bunch of different people who came to defend me. So how do you report this? Christian Lives Matter mob attacks Chris. Christian Lives Matter mob defends Chris. It's both. A very Western Sydney story where there is no single narrative. There is no single story. This is multiculturalism. Different cultures, different views, different principles. You've got your Newtown, you've got your Belfield, you've got your Maryland, you've got your Greystanes, you've got your Lakemba. And I think that's why this story took off, is partially the violence, but partially I reflects the anger that's here, because they do not feel listened to one bit. Any big cameras here, including myself, is going to get accosted and harassed. I'm back here as well because Mainstream wanted to interview me. I recorded it. I'll put up an edit of it later on, and later tonight I'll also put up an uncut version of it. Hands in the sky. A correction. A couple of left-wing commentators reached out and said that I was unclear in my post. Yeah, I was. I put in my post that Christians saved me. Yeah, Christians did. Christians saved me from being attacked by a Christian protest. Something really important for protesters is, unless you are actively intervening in what's happening, unless you are trying to stop the violence that's occurring, you are associated with that violence. Through the camera lens, that's all we see, is we see a group of angry men. I think the real message that I want to try and amplify is the men who tried to prevent and stop that violence. Because that's what we're not going to cover. So I got an interesting twist for you is, I believe the man who was standing over me, trying to prevent that violence from happening, was earlier that evening calling for violence to occur. I think it may have been the same guy. How do you wrap that into a neat headline? Christian protests with Christian man calling for violence against non-Christians stops Christians from attacking reporter. Just doesn't fit into a headline, so it won't be there. So the only place to get it is there. There's mainstream news going past us there. I'm glad to be back here. I'm change how I'm doing. Fundraising. I'm asking fundraising for a new phone. I think the difference with my fundraising is it's not going to go on a legal challenge. It goes on gear. It gets smashed. I quite liked that phone. I wasn't quite ready to replace it. I knew I needed a new one, but I wasn't quite ready to replace it. Let's have a look at some comments. Am I on Lakemba? Yeah, very close to Lakemba. St. Michael's. It's in Belfield, right next to it. No Lucky Lance, no one's selling a VL Calais. I'd say this is more kind of a lowered supercharged Cortina crowd last night. I need a media t-shirt. Always the left. It wasn't the left that was attacking me last night. Anyone would describe them as absolutely right. It wasn't the left that was defending me last night. It was absolutely right. Far right defending me from far right. Right wing defending me from the right wing. Put that together however you want. No, I'm not covering the March for Life on Sunday. I'm taking a break. Good time to take a break, guys. Good time to just take stock. There's nothing much happening at the church. Media come and go. I've been here about an hour and they're having a look around. People are upset and angry. People coming to give their prayers at the church. It's nice to see. I'm not going to front up to anyone and interview them. Honestly, I'm not up for it. I'm not up for it. I'm not up for it. Far right, not the same. Yeah, look, that's diversity. Far right has diversity. Right wing has diversity. That's diversity. Different views, different values. This is what it looks like. And as part of diversity and multiculturalism, you're going to have people who also group together within their own culture. Just as you have a certain group of people who congregate around Newtown, you have a certain group of people who congregate around Lakemba, Belfield and Western Sydney. And their views are vastly different. Look at the same-sex marriage polls. You're talking about seats down here which had 82% voting against same-sex marriage. Yeah, we won the poll on the whole. Not out here in some seats. Not out here. You had some booths that were close to 90%. 90%. That is the reality out here. So what do you make of it? What do you make of it? You know, it's going to be zipped up into a live stream journalist gets attacked. Live stream journalist gets attacked and prevented from serious injury because of gets attacked by Christians, prevented from.
Not next one, the one after.
Thanks so much, man.
7 News on his way. Credit to 7 News. They've never ripped off my live stream without credit. Credit to them. There's Channel 9 plus their watermark all over it. Come on, guys. Come on. And they've ripped it without even credit at all. And they've ripped it and called it exclusive. Bastards. Bastards. So, Channel 9, if they do actually reach out to me, I probably wouldn't even join the call. Yeah. When you get back to me about the last footage that you ripped off, then we'll talk. Whatever your protest cause, unless you're actively intervening in what happened. And that's what happened up here. There's a group of men who congregated up there, a lot of women, all of the softcores who weren't violent last night moved away from it and said, oh, I don't want to be associated with it. And they walked back down here to the church, leaving nothing but the violent guys up there alone with the trans protesters who were just up there. And that was it. Had a camera on me the entire time. Oh shit, I'm the story now. It's not really what I wanted, but that's how it is. Let's take you down to the intersection of where it happened. Just a suburban street. Otherwise, nothing doing the next day. Not that many hours ago, this was a swarm of conflict. People were jumping fences and standing on fences over here. The trans rights protesters ended up down here, mainly because they quickly realized that they were not just not welcomed by the local community, were not just in fear for their safety. They were pushed back down here by police because you had swarms of angry men trying to get to them in order to not just throw them to the ground but injure them. Standing on here announcing that they were the trans rights protesters were not welcome here, and this wasn't where they wanted them to be. And I believe they got bussed out or evacuated out from there under police protection. It was just here that the police line was. They're trying to make sure that people weren't coming further up here towards the trans rights protesters. Don't keep the Christian lives, guys, back here. And silly me, I ran from just over here around some people and police to try and get up to the police line here. It seemed a lot taller yesterday. It was just about here. Just about here. So I was grabbed and thrown back. And just, geez, it was a long distance I got thrown back. This is a long way. Like, this is a really, let me, in just how far this is. I was ended up falling backwards. Wow. Stumbling on my way and then ending up on my ass, and a group of men up around me. I was just about here. Just about here. They ended up looking up from where I was here, and with that kind of bewildered look. What the hell did I just get myself into, Chris? What the hell are you doing? How did you end up here? Romeo Georges calls me an ambulance chaser. Called for violence against me today. That's Romeo. He's probably right. I probably did run in here too much. I can recognise that. Didn't pick the scene properly. Didn't work it out. Yeah, I'll take that criticism. I think calling me an ambulance chaser, don't worry about him, he'll get what's coming to him. Yeah, I don't think that's trying to correct someone's behaviour, and he can own that. He can own that. A lot of people have reached out to check I'm okay. You know, I was surprised. A lot of the social progressive commentators actually reached out to check that I'm okay. I hope at some point that they realise, well, I've got my biases. My job is to try and report the news and how it's happening. And I'll also say this, if the news was doing such a good job, they wouldn't use so much of my footage, and I'm talking about the same commentators within that social sphere. They wouldn't rely on it. It's like a one-man band. One-man band.
Yeah.
Got to change what I'm doing. We'll see if I fundraise a new phone. Honestly, as I said, if I'm not able to fundraise a new phone out of this, I think I might just leave it at that. I mean, I will be back. I won't be able to resist the urge. I know that. Oh, Chris, I'm going to stop this if I don't fundraise a new phone. No, I'll eventually come back. But honestly, if I'm able to, I seriously reconsider things. I got to seriously reconsider it. because I'm happy to throw some money into this. And this is about 3.2 of gear that got smashed before last night. Close to 1,000 got smashed last night. Look, I know it's only $4,000, but at the same time, it's $4,000. And the editing time, and this is excluding my time, but sometimes I pay some editors to try and edit some things down. Generally, when things are too violent, I paid, when Dashi Prasad tried to throw me down the stairs on the Downing Street courts, I paid someone to do that. And I wasn't able to edit down some of my work around Victoria Park. And I've had some great editors I've worked with, which are plausibly socially progressive as well. Great guys. But they cost money, everyone wants to get paid, and I don't, because I'm not fundraising. But yeah, I'll have another, I'll have to really take stock if I'm not able to fundraise a new phone. I have to think about that. Now, on that, I really want to, I should have said this earlier, sorry guys. I was down there last night, and one of the biggest things with the guys that were defending me, just hours later, lent me a new phone. No question. Came straight up to me and said, hey, iPhone 12, there you go. I haven't managed to get it fully configured. That takes hours, but thank you. Charlie, not Charlie Backo, it's a different Charlie, but don't know if he wants to be properly well known. Charlie's vague enough but specific enough to know who he is. I got to reach out to him later on. And he wasn't the only one who was offering me cash and money, but I just wasn't ready to kind of accept it and take it in. We'll pay for a new phone, I'm like, yeah, thank you. But these were people who hadn't seen my coverage. And that's why I didn't want to take cash with them. No, I'm going to go to the people who watch my coverage, and I'll assess where I'm going from there. If people who watch my coverage aren't able to help me fundraise a new phone, I got to think about that one. If there's more generosity amongst people who aren't consuming the content than are, I got to really think about that one. Who's my audience? What am I doing? Where am I going? And this is what I've tried to comment a little bit for a while about right-wing media, is it's fiercely individualist first. It's very individualist when it comes to fundraising, and the right is individualist, and they're unable to fall in line with that kind of hierarchy. They want to be at the top of that hierarchy, and therefore they won't even give as much as they give Philip Morris in a day to a live streamer in a month. I called people outside the Russian protest while they were shaming mainstream media. Yeah, give us some criticism, but they were throwing things at them, and it's not fair to throw things at media, mainly because it doesn't help. Like, is it going to convince them to give you fairer coverage? They are reflecting their advertisers. They're reflecting where the money sources come from. They've got to try and give a fair and balanced thing along the way, but they've also got to recognise that's where the ad money comes from. That's their job. Got a chat with Chris Reason, which was nice. I recorded that. Odd that Channel 7 wanted to speak with me. Why would they, it says that they're trying to wedge somewhere into the further pseudo right-wing space if they even speak with the guy. ABC wouldn't. They wouldn't. But, they from their point of view, he said that he struggles because he's only got about 6 or 7 guys in his entire newsroom. And that's hard. 6 or 7 journos, but Daily Mail wrote an article about me that didn't call me anti-vax, fake news, whatever. So all it takes is to be thrown to the ground by some Christians while being defended by some Christians who then give you a new phone to earn your journo stripes? Come on. The lefties feel I'm trying to minimize things. Yeah, I had some corrections. I wasn't clear about it. But how do you do an editorial of trans protest Christians who get violent at reported defended by... Yeah, it was an etymological, it was a linguistic challenge in order to try and write that story. And that... Guys, Chris Reason from 7 there. He's about to go do his direct-to-camera piece, which goes on tonight's news. That's, yeah. No, I don't mind. I think for much of the socially progressive left, the far left that is, we'll call it, and the anti-fascist left, pretty much anything that I try and do is going to be minimizing what happened to me. Even, and this is really clear. When, as I said, Dashi Prasad threw me down some stairs, tried to throw me down some stairs outside Downing Street Court. When that occurred, none of the group came to my aid. None of the group cared about what happened. All of them jeered and said, "Oh, did you drop your phone, Chris?" In this group, men put themselves in harm's way and took violent blows in order to pull me away from the same group of men which they were associated with, from any injury. But I'm minimizing violence. Honestly, I'm less injured than when Dashi tried to throw me down the stairs. I'm less injured because my right knee fell on, those disability strips. Oh, and they're metal. Oh. And the lens and body that I did break that day was worth more than my phone. But I'm minimizing violence. When a lot of this comes down to emotion when it comes to violence, and to have the community here reach out to me here at the church and say, "Hey, are you okay? We really care about you. Do you need a cup of tea, a cup of coffee? I'm so sorry what happened to you." Versus the rainbow rights protesters when that happened go, "Oh, what's wrong, Chris? Oh, don't sleep. Don't sleep. Don't sleep." Please, minimize. Oh, he's got more lights than me. Don't slip, bastards. All right. Am I Christian, gay, CIA, ASIO? Yes, I'm all of those things. I'm a gay, Christian, CIA, ASIO plant. Don't forget ISIS and all the rest of them. I'm Chris. I live stream protests, for crying out loud, you silly goose. No one pays me. But David Wilkinson, you can pay me. You can pay for a new phone. Go on, give it a go. Independent. Yeah, no one gives me any money, so that makes me underfunded. I'm unfunded media. Although sometimes I do. I have received a 360 camera in donation. I get some money from Subscribestar, which is nice. I've got my Ko-Fi up. Please see previous links and throw a few tips in there. I would like to know the answer to your question. Okay, no one's entitled to answers to questions. I'm not, you're not. If you don't politely ask, you're not entitled. No one's entitled to anyone else's time. Fair play, independent. Thanks, Gail. Can't lose you. You're such a fair play, independent journalist. Yeah, I try to be. I've got my biases. No one's perfect. I think, fairness is an impossible goal. Unbiased is an impossible goal. But what you can be is critical. And I go to a protest and ask people why they've come, and then try and find some hypocrisy, some inaccuracies, something in them, and challenge them on why they're really there. I try. I do what I can. I am shaken. Yeah. Vera, you've watched a lot of my work, so yeah, there you get me. I am shaken. You have to be. And it does also remind me that while many on the socially progressive side look at me and say, "Oh, he's this super masculine fascist Nazi," or whatever. Yeah, no, guys, you haven't met some of the boys here. They're, and I think that's what the trans rights just totally mispredicted last night, is that coming from their community, they're so much in touch with their own community, and then they came here and they were like, "What the hell is this?" They did not expect the reaction, and they got it wrong. I got it wrong too. Police got it wrong too. Latham's statement this morning got it wrong. What is he going on about? Check out the link for my Ko-Fi. Let's have a look at some of the comments on Twitter. I'm sure they'll be delightful. Twitter is such a delightful place, isn't it? Just wonderful. Mentions. We've got to get over to mentions. Will I be pressing charges against the guy who filmed you pushing you to the ground? Who is he? I don't know who he is. Yes, I think he should be charged. Thanks for clarifying. The assault had nothing to do with the TRAs. No, they didn't attack me. It's kind of an exception. Maronite Catholics are a radical fringe group. They're not Roman Catholics. Okay. Religious groups are intolerant of everyone who's in line with the anti-code going. So much masculinity. Yeah, there was. Is that a bad thing? When it gets out of control, it is, but that needs to be properly focused. Just like femininity. It needs to be properly focused. Don't let it get out of control. Got out of control last night. The guys defended me, focused it, and I believe did a good thing to prevent someone from being injured. It's all about harnessing it. Anger. It's bad. No. Anger needs to be harnessed, focused, directed. Socially left protests are very, very, very angry. Focus it towards a purpose, a reason, an action, and goal. Looney, bladder, electric religion. Yeah. Thanks to Christians who beat him up, then grist more dollars. That's me. Grifter, absolutely, always. Yeah, I do think the Christians who yeah, here's the funny one, guys. I really do think that the guy who stood over me and defended me was in the video. May have been. I gotta check this. But I think he may have been the guy calling for violence as well. I gotta check that. How do you whip that into a headline? People are complicated. Communities are complicated. Headlines don't always tell the truth. He's so slimy. Oh, it's okay. Keep up your work, Chris. We support you. Wishing you a speedy recovery. Thanks, Lord Phoenix. Yeah, cool. Great.
Sorry, excuse me. You're not
Hello.
recording the school, are you?
No, I'm not, and I don't really want to. Thank you. Did you want to have a chat, or did you want to have a chat, or?
No, because I know what you're doing. I'm just making sure that you're not filming the school. That's
I don't really want to. Thanks. All good. Thanks. Yeah, when people ask you to try and record something, that's often, it's like, I don't really want to. If they ask you if you're recording something that you're not recording, I don't want to, thanks. It happens sometimes with a camera is, I'll be like on a photo shoot, I do photo and video work, and people will say, oh, don't take a photo of me. I'm like, well, actually you have to pay me for that? Like $800? So that's what you say in your head. And then you say, oh, no, I'm fine, thanks. I don't want to take a photo of you. And that's what they repeat. Oh, no, I'm telling you, you can't. Yep, I don't want to. Thank you, but no thank you. And they seem completely confused and upset that I'm not going to take their photo. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. It's a gift, it's a privilege. It takes work, it's effort. A lot of people pay money for it. A lot of money. So, yeah, okay. All right. Man, there's been a lot of buzz around it today, but I think I've had enough. I'll reach out to some of the other CLM guys, but I think I've had about enough. I want to give you an update. Could do something else for a bit. Until these two sides start having some dialogue, we're not going to get anywhere. And just like the women's rights, trans rights, pro-trans, anti-trans, pro-women, anti-women, we're not going to have any dialogue. It's not going to get anywhere. We're just going to call everyone Nazis, going to call everyone fascists. Congratulations, we get nowhere. We end up exactly where we started, which is just new laws, new powers. In order to stop the violence, we use violence. Great, fantastic. All right, guys, thanks for listening. See you later.